I brought Matthew, my godson, with me today so he could collect the knowledge of what Officer Joseph has done for the community. Now right now my dad has taken a route north, so he could basically meet up with Uncle Fred, the peacekeeper, right? And we keep an eye out for things, with the spyglasses here. So what we want to talk about here, using the ABC News truck as a background for a new method of communication, is just how these apparitions are scribed on the roadways. Now, what you see here in Fox Lake is basically a map that the net overhead is observing, right? Now you can observe this too simply by looking on the computer maps. What we see is a type of entity, okay? Whereas in this situation, Watson is one of the streets that gives energy and light to this face you see. Okay, you see a face right here, all right? And the Pine Avenue is key in terms of isolating that. Now within this apparition that the helicopters above have looked at, okay, with the anise net, same word, is another type of sacred apparition of an Indian with a staff. Now that is why the police officers use the code word for honing, right? Honing in, or like for example, honing, whittling a stick, a staff, right? So in the computer business, we use basically some special names for this, okay? We use the sundial and some symbols, right, which we decode. So we promptly talk about the cursor, a highlight on the computer screen that indicates where the next character or instruction will be entered, a type of pop-up query, okay? So that is important to understand. I've also marked another page to talk about, and that page here relates to the relational database, a database that contains information associated with that in which one or more different databases and that have in common with others, so that information excuse me, may be drawn from some or all of the sources. Okay, and then also we wanted to talk about the range, okay? The range, okay, based on the measurement of the stick, is the extent or scope of a variable. Now in yards, right, like on a yardstick, that's where we get the notion of the accrees, right, with the K usage instead of the C. That's what gives the mighty Joseph, or Matthew at times, whatever gargoyle it is, wings to talk about, right? So one point we want to make about Joseph, with a very sacred name, is it means Jehovah increases, right? And there is a feminine version of the name Joseph, which is Josephine, okay? So if Josephine is female, okay, and the Irish Gaelic version of Joseph is Sean, now we now have a linguistic expression in which Stacy, which means resurrection, gives rise, as in Resurrection Mary. So here we are today. We're in Illinois, okay? Right here in Illinois, right? Where, let's say, I would say Tommy Skilling would come here and talk about this trunk, right? Joseph at times, or other variable factors. So, some very important namesakes in the news business, and we'll discuss this with our friend John, which we want you to understand that the name Jan, as in January, is feminine word. I don't know if you can hear me, right? Jan is the feminine name of John. Okay, so January is more or less, in that sense, associated with the namesake of a month that keeps time. Now, speaking of time, I brand myself as the Mirac star, the guide star of the Big Dipper, right? Well, that is the Big Dipper, in which Dubhe points a straight line from, the ABC News 7, right? That's a dipper, where the Mirac star plows or ards. It more or less has association with Dub He, which points to Polaris, the North Pole. Now, keeping in mind, up in the skies above, there is the Little Dipper, right? Which tail is Polaris, and the Plough star is actually pronounced in a feminine version. Okay, that is written P-H-E-R-K-A-D. All right. So the associated star with M.I.M.A.L is what I just said, Faircad. Now, there's other things to notate. Perhaps Kochab is the associated star because the ladle is actually in reverse on the Little Dipper. So, just think about an association: M.I.M.A.L, Dub He, Kochab, and Faircad. That manifests 4 namesakes of the line of sight stars on the ladles. The procession that Officer Joseph is going to now. So we wish everybody well in the family, and our prayers are put out to everyone too.